Oh, you might be. Well, hey there. Welcome back. Are you an emergency responder? Oh, you might be. When we think of an emergency responder, we think of ambulance and the paramedics and the fire department and the police. People you call in an emergency when there is an emergency, and they know that their job is to help in said emergency. If you create widgets or do something that's relatively tame, no one's going to call you at 3 a.m. and say, "Oh my God, I need a wooden spoon. And I know you make wooden spoons. Can I please have a wooden spoon? Oh my God." There are a lot of jobs and careers and functions that create, whether it's services or products, that aren't really of the emergency nature. And then there are services or functions that do have an emergency aspect of them or to them. If you're coaching someone on mapping out their time, energy, and resources or their goals, there may be some slightly emergency moments, but for the most part, it's going to go according to a plan with a lot of forethought and so forth. If you coach someone on relationships and dating, well, then you're getting into territory that might involve a bit more emergency stuff. If you deal with electronics or IT, there is almost always that aspect of an emergency to it. If you build servers or deal with networks or security, there's going to be some downtime which might affect the business and therefore create an emergency. Is that bad? Well, it's not optimal. Obviously, we want to avoid emergencies. But if we have a client that we've dealt with, a current client that we've dealt with for some time, and emergencies crop up, you probably are someone who would just help them and deal with them. Okay, well, you've been a client for 10 years and I've made things as stable as possible, but things come up. Of course, I'll do the best I can to help you through this difficult time. And hopefully your track record is one of a lot of stability. And if you apply a lot of stability to something instead of bandages, you get very little emergency and downtime. But then there are people who may want to use your facilities, your skills, your talents. And those people may want to make you emergency responders. When you call the fire department to your house because it's on fire, you may not have ever dealt with these firemen before. They don't know you from Adam, as they say, but they will come and they will do the best they can to help you in an emergency with no warning whatsoever, because that's their job and that's what they get paid for. If someone contacts you with no previous connection to you, has never paid you, also doesn't know you from Adam, and expects you to respond to an emergency without any kind of established relationship, they are making you an emergency responder. Now, in a perfect world, this wouldn't happen. Okay, in an almost perfect world, if this happened, there is a chance that you, of course, could ride up on your big white horse and save the day, and that was the moment that they chose you to now produce all of their spoons, or handle all of their IT needs, or deal with all of their this, that, or the other thing, right? But is that going to happen? Is that really going to happen? Do people that want to establish a solid relationship with you, doing solid things and not putting bandage on things and not having knee-jerk reactions to things, and people who are not reactionary, do those people typically introduce themselves to you by trying to make you an emergency responder? I'm going to go with probably not. As a 2-for-1 in this episode, I'm also going to introduce to you the concept of love bombing and how it applies to business. You've probably never heard of the term love bombing, and if you did, you've probably never heard it applied to business, and I'm going to do both for you today. In relationships, love bombing is typically done by someone to garner the attention and capture the connection and relationship of a person by applying and bombing them with massive amounts of love and showering them with compliments, and they come on really, really, really strong. It's the guy that sends a woman flowers every day. But once he has her attention and once he's captured her, more likely than not, the ignoring starts and the jealousy and all that other stuff. Am I indicting all men or women who decide that it's a good idea to be super romantic in the beginning of a relationship? just most of you, not everyone, but just most people. Because these aren't traditional times where you would court somebody. And even when you court someone, you don't turn it up to 9, 10, or 11 from day one. And I have said to people, the amount of effort and things that someone showers upon you in the very beginning of your relationship is inversely proportional to what they give you for the rest of your relationship. It's the slow burn that has longevity. It's the, oh my God, I can't wait to see them again. I'm going to have some self-control, and I'm going to manage and monitor myself with them as to not overdo it, and to give them a chance in the relationship to reciprocate and build and build and steadily build and check back in 12 years and everything is awesome. The same applies to business. If you connect to someone in business, or you have a potential connection as to whether you're doing contract work with them, or you're going to be hired by them, or you're going to work with them in a partnership, or what have you, there's some sort of business relationship, and it's a give and take, or just a give or just a take, and you are love bombed, that same Uncle Mark phrase applies. The amount of effort and things you are potentially being showered with and upon and throughout is inversely proportional to what's actually going to happen. If someone says, I want to connect with you on X, not the platform, just X as in a variable, and you say, oh, okay, and they start selling past the sale and say, yeah, we're going to do this, and oh, by the way, I'll introduce you to this person and this, and oh my God, and they just start painting this fantastical, epic fantasy of a picture of how many wonderful things they can bring to bear if you would just say yes. With their metaphorical business dozen roses, it's probably not real. Let me give you a sidebar on that. If you have something that you're trying to sell, whether it's yourself or something else, and you say, here's the thing, here's what's really good about this, here's why you should buy this, and the person seems interested, if you decide to go outside of the thing you're selling and say, oh, by the way, we can kick in all this other stuff too, you don't believe in your product. Either you don't believe in your product, or you're lying about your product. Because if it's something you truly believe in, that's all you talk about. He said 4 octaves higher, right? You can think back of when you're done sales, and in almost every position you're in, you're doing sales. Especially if you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur, you are the lead salesman. And even if you're in a company doing something that's, you'd say you think you're completely insulated from sales. And again, I love to pick on the finance managers and accountants because it's such a clean image in people's minds that they just do work and there's not a lot of fluff involved. So if you've made the most fantastic report or pivot chart or this or that, you're going to say, here's all the work I put into it. Here's what I'm showing on this, here's the numbers that nobody's looking at that I was able to do. You don't then go, well, I can make other charts. There's other stuff I could do. I could make a Word doc if you wanted to. If you believe in that, you say, here, look at it, and you wait. So if you feel that you're being made an emergency responder and you feel like you're being love bombed and it sets up a lot of red flags, it's because it really is something that you should be very wary of. Is this advice bulletproof and perfect? No. There may be situations in which you feel like you're being made an emergency responder, and that just so happens to be the way that you've connected to someone. You may be in a situation where you're like, wow, these people really want to do a lot of stuff for me, and it turns out to actually happen. But brother, I'll tell you, that's never happened to me. There are countless times that I've had friends and acquaintances tell me about a job interview that was too good to be true, and it was. And a lot of those times, the people that I know actually took the job. And it was only a few weeks later in that reality set in and things got worse and worse and worse. I also know people and I have personal experiences on both things I mentioned in this podcast. And again, same outcome. So keep your eyes open, be wary, keep things in perspective. And I wish you much success in both business and personal relationships.
Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.
Do you have a story to share or a question? If your idea makes it to a podcast, you'll receive a shout out as well as a token of my appreciation. Join the community, patreon.com/alchemy for life.
All I need are some better days.